Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. Today we are going to be reading Ezra Chapter 2. And if you have not read this chapter, please pause this recording and read the chapter. I know the chapter is long and it has a lot of names, but please just, you can skip the names, but read the chapter and understand what's happening. It has 70 verses, and about like 54 of them is just names, like the family of, the family of, the family of, the family of. So yeah, you can probably skip the names, but understand what's happening in the chapter. And do not skip the whole chapter in the name of what you're skipping names. As a matter of fact, you skip it too. We just listen to it. Listen to a Bible, what is it? Bible audio, and listen to the chapter if it's going to be hard for you to read. So this chapter is basically the list of the Jewish families that came back from exile. It is important that these names are written down. It is important that we see who came back. And this is why it is important. I like verse 1. It says, "Here is a list of the Jewish exiles of the provinces who returned from the captivity. King Nebuchadnezzar had deported them to Babylon, but now they returned to Jerusalem and to other towns in Judah where they originally lived." If this is not a fulfillment of God's promise of restoration, I don't know what it is. This is not a list of people who just, were probably born in exile. They didn't know anything about Jerusalem. They didn't know anything about Judah. This is a list of people who had been deported from Babylon. I don't even know how old these people were when they were being taken from Jerusalem to Babylon. I don't know how old they are when they are going back, but these are people who had initially been exiled from Jerusalem, from Judah, and from the provinces and towns that were around Jerusalem and Judah, and had been taken to Babylon. These are people who knew their home. These are people who knew where they had come from. So it was important for us to list their families and their names. And so we see very many names and very many families that had come. And at the end there, probably in verse 61, we see a group of people who had lost their ancestries. Like imagine zao hazikuwa zinapatikana. There were a family of priests. There was Heboiba, Hakoz, and Barzia. It is said that this Barzia had married a woman who was a descendant of Barzia of Gilead, and he had taken her family name. Sasa unaona he couldn't be known as a Levite because he had taken a Gilead name. I'm like, why is he taking a woman's name? What is wrong with this guy though? But anyway, I like the fact that even those that had lost their family names, they have lost their family lines. Hawajulikani wametoka wapi. Wanajulikana ndio watu wanafaa kurudi, but hawajulikani who their families were. Yes, they could not be allowed to serve as priests because they were not known to be actual Levites, but they were allowed to come back. And the Bible says that they were allowed to come back, and the governor told them to not eat the priest's share of food and sacrifices until a priest could consult the Lord about the matter using the Urim and the Thummim, the sacred lots. But then these sacred lots, I did a little bit of like a research of what Urim and Thummim are. These are like stones, and there were stones that were almost like on the robe of a high priest. And when they consulted the Lord, if the Lord's answer was yes, I don't know whether it was the Urim that would glow or the Thummim. When the answer was no, the other stone would lit, like it would glow. Imagine, how cool is that? Hey, someone find me an Urim and a Thummim, because I have many questions that I want to ask God, and I want to see him say a direct yes or a direct no. But that's the reason why the Bible says that they were not allowed to serve as priests, to eat the priest's share of food, until the priest could consult the Lord about the matter using the Urim and the Thummim, the sacred lots. I mean, that's just amazing. It tells us that there was a total of 42,360 people that returned to Judah. It tells us there was 7,337 servants. There was 200 singers, both men and women. There were 736 horses. There were mules. There were camels. There were donkeys. And it was just amazing that there's a record of all this. Just like there was a record before in Exodus, just like there was a record in Numbers when Moses was asked to record the people before they started now taking the journey to the what is it called, to the promised land. There was supposed to be like a census, and that happened, and this we see happening again, which is amazing that these records were kept and that they were important. And that, I mean, can you imagine what it is to have seen your name, your family name in that scroll, like as we came back, and we are recorded that we actually came back from exile. So what do I learn from this chapter is at first that the Lord is a Lord that keeps promises. And it was very important that we see that some of the people that were actually deported, people who were exiled, people who actually came from Judah, not those ones that had been born in exile, watu wenye walitoka huku Jerusalem na huku Judah, na hizi are the promises and the provinces that made the southern kingdom that actually came back. That is something really great, and I like the fact that it was recorded. The other thing that we see is that not everybody went back. I mean, they didn't just say, now every person who had come from Judah all went back. Not everybody went back in this first return. And I think it's because of many different reasons. I'm imagining, like, if you have been born in exile, you were born in Babylon, and that's all the life you know. You only know a life as a captive. Sasa unarudi wapi? You can't go back to a place that you don't know. You can only go back to a place that you know. Also, I feel like there's a group of people who just like to see things happen fast. So yes, you're going to rebuild the temple. Me, I want to see that you have started. Mr. Kikuko in the beginning, I want to come and join something that is going on. And then of course there was a thing of fear. I'm like, you're going back to a space, but it's been 70 years. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to set up your home? Probably the land that you're already living in, mtu mwingine anaishi hapo, and that's just their land now, and you can't start fighting about it. Maybe there was just that fear of now you're going to start from scratch and you're going to have nothing, you're going to own nothing, you're just going to have nothing. And remember, in captive they had been told by Jeremiah, buy land, cultivate, marry people here, and then they had been told to actually live and to prosper the land that they were living in, even if it was the land of captivity. And now back home, you don't even know what's the state there. Probably there's someone else living on your land, and then now you're going to start going fighting with them. You're going to be homeless. They probably just didn't want that. And that is why in the first chapter, the Bible says that the Lord had to stir the hearts of the priests and the Levites to go back. The hearts of people had to be stirred because not everybody would have been willing. It wasn't a very easy decision to make. It was a decision of faith. And that is why we see the people that are first going back are people that already knew that was home. They were familiar with the place they were going back to. They had not been born in captivity. They knew that place, and they was like, that's home, and that's where we are going back. And it was easier for those people to go back. So what do I learn from this chapter? That the Lord is faithful to keep his promises. And I like the fact that it is recorded.